Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about GreenShift's core layout blocks. That's the row slash columns advanced block, sections, box container, and grid container. If you're just starting out with WordPress and or GreenShift, this video is for you. Now, everything that's laid out on the website can be just put in block per block, but to make things more organized, we want to put these things into what we call containers. Now, let's go ahead and open up a brand new blank page, and let's take a look at these blocks one by one and all together on one page. Now, let's call this page, rename. Let's call this one GreenShift containers. And once we click on the a block library over here, we have 4 different GreenShift layout blocks. Now, before we play with these, let's take a let's take a look at the group block. Okay, we can also talk about row, stack, and you can see there's a preview for these, for what they do and what they look like. But let's just talk about the group one, and then we can talk about the GreenShift one. So all this is a standard, well, default, what they call core blocks within WordPress in the Gutenberg block editor. If you don't install any special theme, you just use the default WordPress ones. If you don't install any aftermarket, third-party block libraries, this is what you will be working with. And there's nothing wrong with working with these. It's just that if you take a look at this, we don't really have much in the way of customization. We do have layout, content width, and wide width. If we set that to our page, we can change our position, and our advanced settings is just anchors, HTML element, and additional CSS classes, and our responsive settings to hide this, or visibility settings, I should say. And for colors, we can put color on the text background and add a background image to this. We can change the padding and the margins, and that's enough control for some users. And if we take a look at this, we can select between 4 different presets. And over here, we can go ahead and add in, let's go ahead and add in a title, right? GreenShift containers over here. And if we were to go over here, we can see we have content and a row, and we can duplicate this, and it's going to go in beside it. Okay, so it works just fine. We can change the orientation, we can change the alignment of these, and you can see these. It then turns from a group to a row or a stack, depending on which options we choose. Right, you can also choose grid, and then we can change the spacing between them. So if I were to duplicate this again and again, we'll get this automatically. And sometimes that's all you need. But let's take a look at, let's go ahead and take a look at the GreenShift ones, starting off with the box container. Now, as you can see, it's very simple. And all it is a place for us to, it's more of a wrapper for our text or our blocks in general. Okay, and then this is independent from the container itself, and you can see box container, right? And you can see once we click on this, we get the controls. Now, before we dig deep into this, let's scroll down and take a look at all of the other options. Now you can see we have so many other options and settings to play with. So we have our tag, our content over here, flexible content. And you can see once we enable that, we have a whole bunch of other options over here. We can set our minimum width for the block. We can set our maximum width for the block, change the top padding, height. We can change the vertical alignment. We can change the horizontal alignment. So over here, it's automatic just because of how it was set, right? Because we put a maximum width on it. So it's actually going to center like that. But again, if we clicked on to this, we can set it inline to flex. It turns into a Flexbox. And we can set the alignment for these, right? And, we can change how we align our items. And right now we only have just this one text block. And if we were to duplicate this, you can see now we can change the alignment, right, from all of the different options that we have. And we can also take a look at how it appears on tablet and mobile, but more on that later. Okay. So let's dig a little deeper now. We can set a container link. If you click on this container, not necessarily the text, but the container, the typography, we can change the text color within this, right? And you can see it's independent from the text itself. And you can see over here, advanced typography options are over here. And the text color is different. Well, it's independent from the rest of the text within this box container. Now you can see we can add a background to this. So let's go ahead and choose something that's a little clear. Okay, so yellow, and then we can duplicate this, and then we can set this one to have a background image. Okay, so we'll just choose something from our media library, a suitable background image, perhaps. Select, and put it over there. Okay, and then we can change up the repeat of this, how many percent it's here and there. We can enable parallax effect depending on when you depending on what you want. Okay, just keep it on there just because it's something to look at. And that's really simple. We can also put an overlay on this. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one then. And then for this one, let's go ahead and add on the overlay. So we can add an overlay to this, and then we can change the opacity. And then similarly, we can also duplicate this one. And then for this one, we can put our background to be a gradient. Okay, we'll probably go with this one just so you can see. And then when we hover over it, we can hover it to be purple. Okay. Okay. Or that probably just works on the front end. Next, we have spacing. Within these, then let's play with this one. Spacing, we can change the margins preset here between these, and you can see how much that changes within these. Okay, we can also change the padding. All right, you can either just type in how many pixels to manually adjust it, or just preset, which is what we're going to use for this. Just because it makes it a bit quicker for tutorial purposes, right? And then for overflow, we can just have it auto or default. And then for border, you can add a border to any one of these. And we can change the border color to be, let's make it blue, right? Just so you can see it. And shadow, we can add a shadow to these. Okay, and it helps to have the padding and the margin and the spacing over here, just so that we can see it, if that's something that's important to you. Size, we can just set it to auto or change the aspect ratio, right? 1:1 or 16:9, for instance, right? But I'll just set that back to defaults. Shape divider, okay, that's something really cool, is we can do something like this. And we can select the colors for what we want, right? Let's use green, and then let's use black, and then we can offset the gradient, and then we can, there you go, you can animate it, or there you go. So this is a lot of stuff that just comes with GreenShift by default, and you can see it's already so powerful, and we're only on the first one. Border masking, we can do this. We can change the masking position, the strength, right? How blurry it's going to be, and then query controller. This is something to have if you have query options. And then under our advanced settings, we just have animation controls, and these are just general for most other GreenShift blocks to begin with. So in this video, we're just focusing on the main controls for each one of the layout blocks. So if you wanted, we can take a look at the all of these other options and settings later on. But right now, let's not pay mind to those. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the advanced section. Now, if we were to drag and drop that, okay, there we go. We can take a look at this and see that okay, and you can see that likewise, oops, let's go over here. Likewise, we have options that are basically the same thing, right? You have shape divider, size, shadow, border, spacing, overlay, background, typography options. We can change the inner layout settings. I'll set that to default real quick. But the main difference is going to be full width and boxed width and variable. Okay, we can change the tag, and we can inherit it from the theme that we have, or we can just set it as custom, right? Max width or what. We'll just set this as a GreenShift theme because we're using the GreenShift theme at the moment. For this first one, let's go ahead and change the background color to orange, right? And we're gonna set this as full, right? And then let's go ahead and duplicate this. And for this one, let's go ahead and set this one to boxed, and you can see that we can squish this down and then change the minimum width. Okay, and then for spacing, we have our margin over here, left and right. We'll set it as that, while this one is going to be full width. Okay, so even if we had it full width, we can mess with the margins as well, and you'll see that it doesn't really mess with anything except for the inner spacing, because this section is taking up the orange area is taking up the whole space itself. So let's reset this. I'll go ahead and change this color to something else, just so that it's a bit more clear. Ow, that kind of hurts to look at, doesn't it? I'll set this to like blue, purple, periwinkle, blurple. And that's that. Okay, so right now, let's go ahead and add some headers just so we don't get confused. here, heading with circle number, just to make things look a little bit more interesting. Oops, I shouldn't have put that one there. Uh-oh. Oops. All right, let's delete this and then go back to the... okay, there we go. Sorry for the technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring this up over here. Okay, there we go. For this one, okay, there we go. Let's call this 1, and then let's duplicate this and then put this down here. And then now let's take a look at the next one, which is going to be rows/columns advanced. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. Oops. Duplicate this and put this down here. Or rather, let's just use this one. This is easier. Put this one here. And let's rename this 3. Okay. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Oops. Okay. Now you'll see that besides just having the plus icon for us to drag and drop our content into, it gives us a bunch of options for the row layout. Now, let's go ahead and just click on a simple one over here, just 50/50, right? And you can see that we can change over here how the presets look like, right? If you wanted just a little bit of space here, but a lot of space over here, we can have the visual builder, and you can see that if you clicked on that, it gives us the percentages, right? And if we clicked on this one, obviously it's going to be 50/50. We can also enable gutter between this. We can also set the content to be full width or boxed width. We can set this to be variable to inherit from the GreenShift theme. And you can see we have options to justify items in the rows or columns. So let's go ahead and add some text here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and duplicate this. And then let's call this 2. And let's play a bit with the column. So as you can see with row and columns, we now get these 2 columns once we select it. So in the overarching block, in the general settings for this row/columns block, we can change up our inner row alignment and options, okay, as well as for the columns. And we can justify them like this or within here. Again, it depends on how big your content is going to be. And then for typography, background, and overlay, it's the same thing for all of these. And once we click on their column over here, we can change our text alignment within the row/columns advanced block. So if a while ago it was just inline like this and we were using the options from over here, from the big one, to align this, if we go into column, we could go ahead and change it to inline block or flex, and we can change what way or how the items within this block are aligned. Okay, some of these aren't displaying or appearing simply because we just don't have enough content within it. Okay, And let's go ahead and put in a background for our rows/columns over here. And let's choose something a bit bright. And then for this one, for the first column, let's go ahead and put in a background for this, just so we can see the differences between all of these. Okay. All right. And now let's go ahead and add an image block, and let's align it into over here, media library. And let's choose a random photo. Okay, this should be enough. You can see it's going to take up a bunch of space, and we can change the size over here, or we can go ahead and enter our column area, and we can enter our custom sizing, or we can set how much our content is going to take. We can take it block or flex. We can justify our content any which way, right? You can center this up, center that up, wrap if we have another one. So let's go ahead and duplicate this, right? And we want it to stack. And if we wanted to, we could have it go side by side. One of these options, there you go. If we wanted to do that, but we want them to stack up and down. And we want to make sure that these are aligned properly. Now we can either use the settings within here, or these settings over here. We can change the gutter, we can change the maximum minimum height. We can center these up. You can see, there you go. And we can space them evenly. Alternatively, if you didn't want to do that, you can go ahead and enter the column that you want to mess with and go to spacing. And let's go with preset margin and padding. You can see this doesn't do anything. And you can see this one does something. So if you wanted to manually control where each one of these things was going, you could do that, separate from the overarching controls in the inner layout options over here. Okay, next let's take a look at the grid block. Okay, let's put this down over here. Okay, oops. There we go. Let's name this one for CSS grid. Now, let's drag and drop this into here. And you can see it's basically the same thing as the row/columns advanced, but it is a CSS grid. So let's go ahead and choose this one right in the middle. And let's take a look at the options that we have here. So starting from the bottom again, we have just basically the same things, background, just general settings. But over here, we can see that we have flexible content options. So we can change the number of columns that we have. We can take a look at the template. We can take a look at the visual grid builder. We can take a look at the grid over here. We can, take a look at how this goes. We can allow overlap or not. We can stretch and align these. Let's go ahead and clean that. Let's put, 6 or what. And we can change the height. We can change the side gap between these. We can change the row gap. We can also change the alignment. So let's go ahead and populate these with a bunch of images. And it's going to be a bit tedious, but I'll get back to you in a... Okay, so all we're going to do is just like duplicate these and then put these underneath each one. Okay, and then one more. And oops. We should be set with that. Okay, so You can see we don't even have any images in yet, but you can see that inside each one of these is a box container, and we already messed with the options for those. So we can change the column numbers, we can change we can resize all of these, we can make we can build a grid using these, right? We can stretch and align them, right? We can have 6, and then over here, that's going to be your spacing, and then resizer. Yeah, that should be fine. Now, we can change the height for these, and you can see we're changing the side gap, we're changing the row gap, and we can change the alignment for all of the elements within here. And we can add a new column right over here, and it's going to be the same thing. And let's go ahead and duplicate this, and then just drag and drop that down here. And we now have another one. Now we can align these things. Well, that's for the image. And if you click on grid container, we can align these things even more. We can change the height. We can change the size gap, side gap, excuse me, and the row gap, depending on if you have a row or not. And that's basically it for this. Let's go ahead and add some images from the media library, and just choose one of each. Right, these are going to be different sized ones. I think this one should be fine. And they're not really loading up quite the way we want them to, but we're going to go ahead and fix that real quick. So we're going to look for the ones that are big enough. And okay, we'll go with that. And then for this one, we'll go with this one. Okay, and you can see that they're all different sizes and they're all like not aligned. Well, they're aligned, but because of the images themselves, we might want to mess with how big they are. So you can change the side gap, and you can see that it changes how these look like. We can change the row gap. Again, we can change the vertical alignment to put them where we want them to be. And if we wanted to, we can go ahead and put this last one over here. Oops. Okay. And we can put this one over here. And you can see that now everything is a bit different. Oops, there we go. And if we were to put this over here, it still goes over there. Put this over here. Put this over here. The positions don't really change too much when they ought to. Okay, and it's more of a condition of how everything is laid out on the code of this, I suppose. Now, if we wanted to mess with each one of these, we're going to have to go ahead and mess with the sizing for each one of these. Right, you can see we have the grid options, where you want to place it. Same thing with this. Oops, same thing with this. We can set it to where it's going to be. Right, and if you change these up, it's going to move where we want it to be. And you can see that it's going to be in different places. Okay, and you can see that we've built a little collage over here using the CSS grid. Now, for the grid container itself, I kind of want to, I want to align it like this. And I think this is fine. But for the spacing, I kind of want to put some margin on the left side. And over like that should be okay with me. Okay, so right now, this is how everything looks like. We have our box containers, our section advance, our row columns advance, and our CSS grid over here. And this is how it will basically look like on our website. Now, before we end this video, let's go ahead and talk about the responsive settings. So over here, let's go ahead and select mobile, and you can see how different everything adjusts with the GreenShift container blocks. Sometimes if you have the core block or you have some other third-party block as a container or a group row column kind of block, it's not very flexible and it doesn't adjust accordingly. So let's go back to desktop and you can see the difference between that and this. And if you scroll down, it adjusts automatically. This just doesn't get cut off. You can see over here, we have the padding that the spacing that we messed with earlier, and we have the full width background over here. You can see it takes up the whole width, so there is no spacing. And over here, let's go back to desktop. You can see it automatically adjusts, and our content isn't actually cut off, especially with the two photos over here. And so it pays to go back and double check how your site looks like on the mobile version, as well as on tablet or desktop, just to cover all the bases. And so we can see the CSS grid over here doesn't really work too well with mobile, and all that has to do is with the side gaps and alignment and spacing. So for the left side, let's go ahead and take a look at the mobile one and see if it looks any different now. And, it does a lot because we messed with the sizes a lot. Okay, so hopefully this covers the first four bases, the fundamentals of creating a layout using what you see is what you get, blocks in GreenShift and WordPress. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, as it really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. Show this kind of video to other nerds like us. If you have any ideas for any future videos, if you need help with anything, please leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, if you found this video helpful, be sure to check out one of our other videos, or go ahead and check out our channel and subscribe to see more content like this.